Wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for our Self-Care September Challenge hosted with Hound and myself, Mind, Body, Thrive Lifestyle. My name is Melissa Allen. I am a board-certified lifestyle medicine professional and veterinary well-being coach. And I wanted to partner with Hound on this initiative because we know that it can be difficult sometimes to focus on really taking care of yourself and your own well-being. So we wanted to consult some of the experts out there in the field that have some different tips and strategies for ways to make self-care accessible. So before we officially get started, I wanted to do a couple housekeeping tips here. Oops, I just totally blew past my slide. There we go. So the way that you can enter our giveaway is by registering for the sessions. So attending the sessions is also going to get you an extra entry as well. If you can't make it live, because we know that your schedules are sometimes all over the place, you tune into the recording and follow the call to action that we'll share at the end of the slides or at the end of the presentation. Then you can also earn your entries that way. We have a bingo template, and by entering and getting all of these entries to our raffle, you can win some of these wonderful prizes. And our bingo card is right here for you. So we really encourage you to take some of these small action steps towards self-care and even start to make some of these part of your regular routine if you're able to. Find what works best for you. That's always what it's about, is meeting yourself where you're at and finding something that can fit into your daily life. With that being said, we are so excited to welcome Dr. Danielle Alleman from the Empathos Vet. You might have seen her all over social media. She shares some amazing and fantastic strategies, and we are just so grateful that she's sharing her time with us tonight to talk about mental well-being and self-care tips for promoting mental wellness. So I will go ahead and let her do an introduction of herself if this is the first time that you're meeting her tonight. So Danielle, take it away. Oh, I think you're still muted. Yes, it's this Mercury retrograde that is still getting all of us. I had to make sure I was recording, first of all.
That was bound to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this session. So yeah, I am Dr. Danielle Alleman. I am a small animal veterinarian located in Washington State. And I currently am a relief veterinarian doing both GP and ER. I'm a 2017 graduate and was passionate about well-being in vet school and kind of helped get our well-being group off the ground there while I was in school. But after I graduated, I quickly got wrapped up in just the life of a private practitioner, and as well equipped as I thought I was, real life and practice just kind of hit me in the face. And I experienced burnout a handful of times in my first 3 years, 3 times in my first 3 years, actually, just once a year, just really like significant, severe episodes of burnout. And I was starting to feel like maybe I wasn't cut out for the profession, or maybe this just wasn't for me. And that was something that really broke my heart, just because I am one of those people that's wanted to be a vet since they were a kid. And so just kind of at that point was looking for answers, looking for some way to make this better, and kind of tapped into some of the self-care type things, learned about boundaries, learned about like just protecting your mental health, learned about like communication, and all just kinds of different personal development type things. And then knew I wanted to share that with others, because I just felt like if I was feeling like this, probably lots of other people were too. So I started Empathos Vet just kind of as a Instagram page to share what I was thinking 2 years ago now. And now it's grown to this big community, and I've done a handful of things and trying to figure out where I fit. Right now I'm working on my veterinary human support certificate from University of Tennessee, and also working on a master's in psychology, organizational psychology, because I'm really passionate about workplace culture. So both of those things are really exciting, and just really glad to be able to like take that knowledge and bring it back to the veterinary community, because it's what I'm very passionate about.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And that's so exciting to hear that, you've got so many new things in the works too, in addition to what you've already been advocating for in the veterinary community. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here, because I would love for us to just kind of start off with, when you think about mental and emotional well-being, or mental well-being in particular, what does that mean to you, and what should it mean to the veterinary community?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest way that that's changed for me, I always thought mental well-being was the presence or absence of mental illness. I'm someone who has experienced depression and anxiety on and off for decades, since I was a teenager. And so that's something I'm very familiar with. And so for me, it was like mental well being was like if those things felt like they were under control, like it just seemed like either I was in crisis and really not doing well, or I was fine. And there was really nothing in between. And I kind of feel like that's something that maybe other people share that sentiment too. It's like either you're in crisis or not. And so now I kind of think of it as like, am I having a really hard time? Am I really just truly surviving? Or I guess, am I in crisis? Am I just merely surviving and like doing okay, not doing terrible, but also not doing great? Or am I thriving? And it's kind of all on a continuum. And so for me, it's like you have mental well-being, or your mental well-being is something like it falls on that spectrum no matter what, and it's not like a two camps and you're either like really good or really bad. So I think that's changed it for me, as far as like not waiting until things get really bad to maybe ask for help or change things in my life or things like that.
Yeah, I love that you share that, not only your personal experience, but kind of what you've witnessed in the community and the industry as well. Because I know as a society, us in America tend to be like very reactive instead of taking proactive actions for ourselves. And so recognizing that you don't have to let it get to that point of crisis or distress before asking for help. Like you can kind of start to recognize those signs and symptoms a little bit earlier and earlier to hopefully keep you from those points, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we would love to know, what have you found helpful for practicing self-care for mental well-being, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. I think for me, the like number one thing I always advocate for is like whether you think you need it or not, therapy is wonderful. That was another thing that I was like, only when it's really bad. Like I just, and then you're like scrambling to find a therapist, but you're exhausted or really depressed.
Right.
So and now it's like, no, I don't, it doesn't matter. Like it's really helpful to have this other third party person that's there to listen to me and provide feedback and work through things. And so like, that's my number one mental well-being strategy is definitely therapy. It's sometimes that veterinary medicine, most of the time it's not, because I'm like, other things than just a veterinarian, but it's really nice to have that person. And then I think the other thing is I just really changed how I think about kind of productivity, and how I think for me, I spent a long time like aligning or relating like how productive I was with how worthy I was. And I had a hard time slowing down and resting.
Yeah.
And I realize now that like I want to be in this profession for decades, not just a few years, ideally.
Mhm.
And so if I want to do that, I have to learn how to slow down and I have to learn how to rest. And that like rest is productive. But now it's even gotten to the point where like, and this is something I never would have done just a few years ago, but like I'll put like rest in my calendar because it's like that's the only way I can really make sure it happens. And that's like rest for me is like doing nothing. Like it's not like answering emails or sitting on the couch feeling guilty about resting. Like it's just truly like watching a TV show or reading a book or just like sleeping in or just doing whatever I want, going for a walk. Those I think that has been really helpful too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And this is just something that as someone who's worked in the mental health industry, I always appreciate when people share that like nothing has to be wrong for you to go to a therapist and to just kind of talk things through sometimes. And I always like to tell people sometimes you do have to shop around for a therapist, because I hate to say it, but there's just like there might be some not so great veterinary professionals out there. There's some really not so great therapists too. And so it's like, don't just go with the first person that you find, like really find someone that you click with, you feel comfortable and safe with, because otherwise you're not going to get out of it what you need to. And then the other thing that you touched on as well with the rest is crucial to not just for your well-being, but also being able to perform in your role. Like you said, you want career longevity. You want to be in this for the long haul because you work so hard to get here. Awesome. Okay. When we're thinking about mental well-being, I know something that comes to mind for me is like all of those unhelpful thoughts that come up that might either keep us from doing things that could move us forward in our careers, or just ways that we kind of hold ourselves back. So how do you manage unhelpful thoughts that contribute to things like imposter syndrome or beating yourself up after you make a mistake and things like that?
Yeah, I think that that's a really hard skill to learn. And I think one of the best books I've read is like Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion.
Mm,
And I knew that self-compassion was a thing, but I thought it was just like, I don't know what I thought it was, but I thought it was just like a floofy topic where it's just like, just let yourself like sit on the couch and eat ice cream, or like, I don't know. But I was
yeah.
not sold. And then I read her books and was like, oh my gosh, this is really helpful. And it's just
Mhm.
the act of being kind to yourself. I feel like that's so needed, because in like as practitioners, like it's not if we make a mistake or if, it's like when, like
Mhm.
medicine is not perfect. We will all make mistakes, and that's just the reality of it. Or just like sitting and being like, could I have done things differently?
Mhm.
Cases that go over in your head.
That's what they call it, practicing medicine, right?
Exactly. And so I feel like for me that one of the things she talks about is just imagining if you had a friend that had the exact same thing happen to them and they came to you and were like, this thing happened, I made a mistake, and like what would you say to that person?
Mm.
Likely you would say like, we're only human, you didn't mean to make a mistake, like your intentions were good, don't be so hard on yourself, like I would have done this, like you're going to be very kind and supportive. But then when that's us, like we don't want to do that. So I think sometimes I have to be like, if this was someone else,